Welcome to PPR podcast number 84. My name is Paul. The star sits to my immediate right. His name is Grossman, Bert Grossman, shaken but never stirred. And boy, we have ourselves a guest. Would you like to introduce the center seat?
Ron Fowler, former owner of the Padres and the Sockers, correct?
Yes.
Ron, you want to see what I have to deal with? Look, somebody sent me this. Self-done art.
That's a self-portrait.
Self-portrait.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'll say, caught his likeness. This conversation can go in 1,000 different directions, and we'll try to keep it to, we won't maximize your time or overstay our welcome. But just because I think Bert brought it up first to me, he goes, I wonder if Ron, with this time of year, with the Padres looking as good as they look, coming off the season they came off of, if he misses it. Could you address being part of that inner, I know you're still involved in baseball and everything, but do you miss being part of that inner circle?
Well, I'm a fan first. Before I got into baseball, I was a fan. So as a fan, you have expectations. And I was pretty intimately involved with baseball in terms of New York and all of the other stuff with AJ and Peter and such. So from that standpoint, yeah, I do miss it. I still know some of the things that are going on within the organization, but I have high expectations like I think everybody else, and let's get the season started and let's not have any injuries and have the year we expect.
So I know we talked about it back in the day, but why are you not with the team right now?
I'm 78 years old. When Peter and I bought it, it was one of those that, I was going to run it for a while. Baseball wanted me to because they knew I understood San Diego, or they thought I did. And, I had a good run, and then COVID happened, and I've got some respiratory issues, and my doctor said, you're done. You can't go down there anymore. You can't do this. And, I had a 8-year run with the Padres, and I was 76, and frankly, it was a good time to turn it over. And AJ had, made a lot of his early mistakes and had grown up a lot in terms of how to do things. Eric Grubner really knew what he should be doing, and it was sort of time to turn it over. And it was part of the plan, and COVID probably expedited it by a year or two, but it happened, so we move on.
So you mentioned AJ's early mistakes. I always wonder on that. So how much of a leash do you give somebody? Because we see in football now, young football coaches get sometimes not even a full season, and they're out and they pay out their 6 years remaining. How much of a leash, and does that depend on the actual guy?
Well, I think when we hired AJ, he was actually reporting to someone else, and I think he was taking direction that we needed to make a big bang in terms of some of the names that we brought in early. And I think, Bert, there was a reason some of those people were available. I don't think they were probably great team guys. And, it was a disappointing situation, but I think it put us on the radar of we are going to do things to try to make a difference. We weren't the same old Padres that, as long as we were playing somewhere close to 500 baseball, we were going to be happy. But I think he realized that he relied on a couple of people in baseball that he thought were close to him, and I think their advice was not necessarily very good. So he's moved on. I've talked to him recently. I think he has a lot more confidence in what he's doing. He has a vision, and he's grown up a lot because he was a very young man when he came in, and I think he's now, in his mind, matured at mid-40s, and I think he's been given permission to spend money, and I think he's out to win and going to spend what he needs to spend to get us there.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because one significant change is his credit card limit has gone up. I mean, you have the third biggest payroll in baseball, and I'm curious. Can I ask my economic question?
I was going to ask the same thing.
Okay.
I want to tail into this, too.
All right, well, then go ahead. You play through.
So, I mean, if you're 2016-17, you're in charge of the collective bargaining for all the owners. I mean, everything's put out there. You don't want to pay this, you don't want to pay that, and that's your job for that. How do you balance that when you're also getting a team and young players, do they look at you differently that way after that?
Well, 16, 17, we actually gave the players what they wanted. I frankly think we should have given them more in the way of minimums, but Tony really wanted quality of life issues, better food, nonstop travel, better hotels, and this type of stuff. We gave them that. The focus on the economics really wasn't there. And then we had, we were going through the transition of, let's say, PEDs were gone, players' life cycles were less. And so it was a transition period. But, some of the big contracts came out. Manny got a contract, Harper got a contract, and the baseball changed. Excuse me. And I think leading into 22, those contract negotiations, they were bitter. There were some different people involved. But, when you see the players as a group reject what their union negotiators are doing, I think the players realize they got a pretty good deal in terms of minimums and some of the other things they got. So all the stuff about negativity and warfare between owners and players, I think, was overdone. I think we've got a fair deal, and now you have a situation where middle markets probably don't have the vision that Peter and the Padres have here. You've got other markets that have football, have hockey, have basketball, and there's more competition for the dollar than we have here. But when the Chargers moved, our plan all along was with a 5-year plan to really be to kick it in gear in 2020. COVID sort of kicked us, so we couldn't kick it in gear in 2020. The money was spent in 2021, but it was disappointing. But 2022 basically is year 3 of a 5-year plan to get competitive. And this year, frankly, I think has got to be the year that we really make a big difference, because we've got Manny, who can opt out next year or is going to get more money. You've got 2 of our top 3 starting pitchers. You've got Tatis, who has to prove that he is what he's being paid to be. And so it's a pivotal year for the Padres. And I can put on my normal glasses and say we're going to do pretty damn well. And that's what I hope.
Just a couple more Padre questions. I wanted to get back to, you mentioned some of the salaries involved, and AJ's got the bigger credit card to work with. Padre, if you go by television markets, San Diego is a middle market. We're the 28th biggest TV market in the country. Consequently, the team's TV contract or local TV deal is in that range. So explain to me baseball economics. Can a team like the San Diego Padres generate enough money to service that payroll that they have, the 3rd biggest payroll in baseball, I think, without the owner going into his own pocket? Or does Peter and the executive committee, are there capital calls that folks like you had to answer to make a team work?
Well, there have been capital calls, and they're 9-figure capital calls. So it's not that we haven't had them, but what we have here is, we don't have other people taking money out of the marketplace. So if we provide good entertainment, people are going to spend the money. So ticket sales have gone up, ticket prices have gone up, sponsorship has gone up. The one thing you started with, Paul, is RSNs. The RSN is really the biggest challenge for baseball right now, because those sport networks are not doing well. Could very well be that the RSN that we have, Sinclair, is going to file for a chapter before the season actually gets started. And that's going to have a negative impact, obviously, on revenue. But the biggest difference, if you compare baseball to football, is in football about 70% to 75% of the revenue comes from national considerations. Baseball, it's about 70 to 75% of the money comes from local. So if you can get your attendance to where it needs to be, if you can get good sponsorship, and your ticket pricing is going up, you're going to be able to fund the vast majority of your expenses. So that's what is happening in San Diego at this point in time. But you have to keep on winning.
So that's the difference between the other middle market teams in San Diego, is they're not turning the turnstile as quickly. Obviously, they don't have the winning product on the field. Consequently, sponsorship and all those other things that you just mentioned are not as lucrative as they are here in San Diego. That's the difference between, say, us and Cincinnati.
That's an accurate statement. And then you have owners who sort of shoot themselves in the foot with some of their public comments. So it's a combination of all those things.
That's a whole nother.
So that's interesting. Let me take you back, 5-6 years. You're a San Diegan, obviously. You're also owner of the Padres. What's your thought when the Chargers are moving? Did you want them to move? I mean, as a San Diego, it's obviously no, but as a competition point with the Padres, I mean, where'd you sit on that?
Well,
don't hang up on me, Ron.
Ambivalent about it, Bert, because I had been working quietly with Dean Spanos in the city to find a location for the Chargers in San Diego. And had been doing it, frankly, since Super Bowl here in 2003. I chaired that. And I knew at the time that was our last Super Bowl unless we got a new facility. And I did not like how Dean was negotiating, and I've said that to Dean. I think he had a number of options early on, and but the line he kept on using is we're not mixing other businesses in football. Well, a lot of other people have done a very good job of development and really helped themselves. And hell, here's an entity that was a developer, Spanos construction business. So I never quite understood what happened, but then I was with the Padres when all of a sudden they decided to take our parking lot away, tailgate, and they're going to put their facility down there. I went from being a supporter and going from ambivalent to opposing it because there was no way that was going to work for the Padres. And I think, as a San Diegan who loves sports, I was very disappointed that they moved. But the fact is, once they did, we went aggressively after putting a program together to grow this thing to where it is now. And they're gone. Some people think they're going to be back. I think there's a snowball's chance in hell.
Yeah,
they're going to be back because of the dollars involved. But it is what it is.
Can I ask one last baseball question?
Yeah.
Because I want to get. I got 1,000 business questions I want to ask. Fernando Tatis, you brought up his name. What kind of a player are you expecting? What kind of welcome are you expecting for a kid who, was the face of baseball for that period of time and now has to deal with the taint of anytime you get popped for steroids, you're considered tainted. Will he overcome that?
Well, it's all going to be based on how he plays. If he plays well and plays hard and doesn't go down any other rabbit holes he shouldn't be going down, I think he'll be fine over a period of time. But he seems to get easily distracted, and he's going to have a good year, a good focus, a singular focus. And I think if he does that, people will embrace him again. But, unfortunately for Taddy, most of his problems were self-inflicted, whether it be not addressing the injury properly, getting on a stupid motorcycle all over the DR, and then finalizing it with the PED problem.
But should we be giving early 20-year-olds or anybody 10-year guarantee contracts? I mean, at this point, at some point, whether they're great or not, it's such a long span. I mean, if I play good in 6 months, all of a sudden I'm set up for the rest of my life for 10 years locked in?
Well, you just talked about the downside of a guaranteed contract if you're the one paying it. I disagreed with the decision to do what they did, but they made the decision, and it was their decision to make, and now they're going to have to make it work because the last 6 years of that contract are $36 million a year.
That was a big chunk of change. All right, now...
I already warned him against. He's going to ask you business questions. He wants to open a tanning salon or something. I told him you were out of his league, but he's going to do it anyway.
First of all, Mr. Ron and I have common roots. I think he went to the University of Minnesota. Weren't you a Gopher?
Well, I went to St. Thomas, the team that went from Division III to Division I initially. Then I went on to the University of Minnesota. All
right, so we have Minnesota in common. Could you tell us, kind of take us, were sports a big part of your life as a youngster, and kind of take us through the timeline to when you were running a soft drink distribution here in San Diego. Kind of give us the bullet points of Ron Fowler's life.
Well, I thought I was going to be a baseball player. I was a pretty good high school ball player. Our team won the championship when I was a junior, state championship. And then I tore my ACL when I was 18, and back then, 60 years ago, they basically said you're done. And it's like, hell, what do I do now? It's like, okay, I guess I better take college seriously. But I always had the interest in sports, so I started getting interested in the business of sports. Had 4 job offers coming out of graduate school, and I ended up taking a job with the Theater Ham Brewing Company, which is owned by Hubline, which is now Diageo, and got into the beer business, and really got to know some owners and such in baseball at the time, because Hams was a sponsor of the Twins, and got to meet the leadership there. And I won't comment on who they were at the time, because they were not exactly what I'd call good people. One was basically a racist, and but I got into the business of sports, and beer and sports go together. And so I spent 4 years with Hams, a little over 3 years, I should say, with Hams, and then went to work for Lucky Lager, which was out here, and went to work for Olympia, signed a deal with the Dodgers when I was running Olympia to be their sponsor. Took it away from Anheuser-Busch for a while. Ended up in San Diego running a business, beer business, and some other soft drinks and such. But bought the company in '78 and really became part of the San Diego community. I'm a firm believer, if you're making money in a community, you need to give back. So I got involved with the Hall of Champions, Greater San Diego Sports Association. We bought the Sockers. I had a great run there. The story there is we bought the Sockers. We had all these reps and warranties that all expenses were current and such. And the day we took over, the IRS seized our bank account for unpaid taxes. And that was the state of soccer way back then. And but I had a great run. I had got to chair Super Bowl. Was very involved with various universities, whether it be SDSU or USD and Division I sports, and really was fairly close to the owners of the Padres and Chargers and such at the time. So it was, I look back, knock on wood, I feel very privileged to have been able to do what I did. When we got involved with the Padres initially, it was with Morad and Jeff Morad, and it was a short time before I realized that Jeff and John Moores were not exactly on the same page, and so we had to sell the Padres back then, and got to know the leadership of baseball, which was, sitting in the exec council meetings and that kind of stuff with baseball. It was, it for me, a kid from Minnesota, was pretty damn heady stuff. It was fun, and I look back some days and just say, how the hell did I end up doing some of the things I've done? But I wouldn't trade it for the world.
What's your best piece of business advice that translated into your sports business life?
Oh, there's a couple of them. The under promise, over deliver is one that's I've used for years, but probably the one that is most meaningful is keep on changing the game so you find one you can win. Because if we tried to do the things the way the Dodgers did, we'd never be successful. In the same way with soccer. So you got to tweak it. When I competed with Anheuser-Busch, they market shared us initially about 2.5 to 1, and by the time we were done, it was pretty much even. So that would be the big one. Keep on tweaking things, keep on changing the game until you find one you can win.
I can tell you, I never thought I'd walk in today or the rest of my life and hear a reference to Hams again.
I know. I remember what the can looks like.
I was a beer can collector. Remember in the 70s?
That was like a two.
Dancing bear.
Yeah, I know. I was just gonna say.
Now they're illegal.
I didn't expect that.
They won't let us run them anymore because they appeal to kids.
I think you get a 6-pack of beer for like $1.50 or something back in the day.
So what is it? Let me ask you a question, because I'm fascinated by this too. The Sockers, you go there and then you walk from Sockers to Major League Baseball. What's the biggest? I know money's the biggest difference. What's the biggest, like, wow, this is different?
I'd say the money aspects of it. The owners in baseball are far more sophisticated, but I will tell you they're equally weird. Some of the baseball owners make their money in trading commodities and this type of stuff, and they're really not business guys per se. They have a niche that they're really good at, and they made a lot of money in. Soccer guys were more middle market guys. The classic in soccer that, if you weren't in the room, I don't think you'd believe it, is the commissioner was trying to get a cap, lower cap on salaries. We had a cap at that time, I think it was in 87, $1,625,000 per team. And now it's close to the minimum in baseball. But anyway, people were complaining about the cost. I thought soccer was a revenue issue, not a cost issue. So the commissioner gives a guy an opportunity to make a presentation, and he starts talking about a McDonald's franchise. And it's like, what the hell are you talking about? And he starts talking about how much they pay people to work at a McDonald's. And I listened, and I finally said, I can't handle this anymore. At my first frickin' meeting of the owners, put my hand up, and I said, with all due respect, our product's soccer, not hamburgers. How can you compare a hamburger flipper with a professional soccer player? And actually, in the meeting, there were probably 50% of the guys that were agreeing with him versus understanding that it was an apples and oranges comparison. And at the end of the time we owned the Soccers, it used to be that if we wanted to do something, I'd tell one or two owners that were friends that we'd like to do this. The only way it got done, because they were trying to break up the Soccers, is they would propose it, I would oppose it, and it would typically be a 9-1 victory with us voting against something we wanted. You can't make this crap up.
Know the room.
I do have one other question,
Go ahead.
Ron, because you're perfect for this. This is an unpopular opinion, but I miss the mixed-use fields, you know, like the first 4 games of the season.
Oh, come on.
I do, where there'd be an infield and a football field. We'd play our first 4 games till baseball was over. Does anybody miss that? Baseball and football in the same stadium?
Well, the economics were such that it just didn't work. And, I think the last place was still happening was up in Oakland until they moved. But football players used to complain about it. Baseball players used to complain about it. But, it's one of those things that's gone, and I don't think we'll ever be back.
So it's not coming back.
Well, because the sight lines were never right.
Come on.
Not only was it a player health issue, but I mean, you could have 50-yard line seats, and you were like, if you were on the 50-yard line, you were 100 yards from the sideline. So if you were the best seat in the house was the worst seat in the house. The best seats in the house were the end zone seats.
Or the Coliseum, they had the track, and you'd be 2 miles
I know.
from the field.
You needed binoculars.
Yeah, just from the first row.
So, you mentioned the Hall of Champions, and keeping Mr. Breitbard's memory alive. It seems to be a cause of yours. Why is that important to do?
Well, I think with all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world, encouraging kids to be athletes is important. I think athletic competition is far better than sitting here looking at your iPhone. And I think that recognition, I'm not one that believes in participation trophies. Matter of fact, I'm totally opposed to it. But if you're busting your hump, whether you're a guy or a gal in high school, and you're looking to compete, I think we should reward the commitment and the achievement. And I think you should be able to do that at high school level, college level, and professional level also. So Bob had that vision. I subscribe to that vision. And, although the museum part of it didn't work, I think that being able to move that to Petco and have all the people that walk through there see this Hall of Fame is good. But the Stars of the Month program, I run into people that, hey, are you involved with that? And I said, yeah. And they said, when I got my plaque or I got my certificate when I was 17 or whatever, it's a big thing to them, and many of them still have it. So I think it's important to the people who receive it. I think it's important to acknowledge achievement, hard work, and that's what Bob's vision really was.
I still have mine. Bob gave me one early on for the PPR as a media member. I still have it. It's one of the few things I still have hanging in my office.
You have an office?
Yep.
Yeah, at home.
Oh, right.
So,
Ron, I hope I didn't offend you with the Padres, the Pirates hat. I mean,
No,
they're so bad. Nobody's
didn't offend me at all.
Yeah, nobody's offended by the Pirates. Are so bad.
well, can we talk about your foundation too, and your son, the memory of your son, and how that is going?
Yeah, I might get a little emotional here.
Well, and
You know,
I part, but it's a big part of who you are now.
well, with all the success I've had, that's one of the things that my son's not here. You can't bring him back, and when you went through it, it was, you were told on one hand it was tough love. You were told this, you were told that. I think every situation's different. My son smoked pot, and I don't think that was the worst thing in the world. But he also drank, which I'm told, going through all this, he was a functional alcoholic because he worked and got that done. But meth is the one that got him, and he never was able to beat it. And he, at the very lowest, he was living out of his car and wasn't available to us. And I just saw it was a devastating element. And Kai Snyder and my wife were very helpful in terms of working through it. And the bottom line was, how can we have something good come out of this? Because when he was killed in the car accident, a number of people wanted to help. And the reality was that we came up with this program. And, some of the kids who have gotten the award were into substance abuse. The families of literally all of them have problems with substance abuse. So the environment they're in is terrible. And most of these kids are not going to have a chance to break the chain and get out and do something. And what we found is, what was the tie going to be to some of the things with sports? And it was that they would use sports, whatever it was, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, track, or cross country, to help them be in a better environment with people who were, not using. And it kicked off. I think we were at $2,500. Now we're up to $6,000, and 7 people on average get it each year. And then if they have a good first year of college, they get more money for a second year. So you've seen, Paul, some of the people that
Absolutely
are there that come back and tell their stories, and it's really special to be able to do it. And we're going to look to expand it. And with some of the community colleges, some of these kids can get enough money if they get a 2-year thing that's $15,000 or so to get through the community college and get on to some of the state universities and such. And these kids, for the most part, wouldn't be going to college, wouldn't be able to do what they're doing without the scholarship program. So there's a lot of people who have helped in it, from being the judges to being mentors and such. So it's taken something terrible and hopefully turned it into something positive.
Ron, of all your accomplishments and all your accolades, what that foundation is doing, that to me is your signature deal. I've been to that luncheon several times, and the convolutes of sports and people caring, I doff my cap to you, sir. Because families go in one of two directions when they have a tragedy like that. They either implode or they turn tragedy into something special. And for folks like yourself who are able to do the latter, God bless. I mean, think of all the lives that you have saved in the process. So I encourage everybody to check out your website and contribute and attend, and you make it even bigger.
I thank you for that. Like I said, there's a lot of people who've been involved, and I think we have accomplished some good, and we'll continue to do it. And I appreciate my other family members who are very much involved, and Kai, who's been there from day one, and Bill Walton, who is very involved. So it's sort of a life work.
It sure is. So you gonna go to the big game, or hey, just out of curiosity, now that you're away from the team, do you still go to games?
I still have my 4 Gucci seats. They're very expensive. I forget to try to talk to Peter about lowering the price, but haven't been very successful.
Do you have to pay, or do you still have parking space?
That's the worst. Everybody thought we were getting the seats that we had for free. I paid for my seats for the entire time I was there, and paying for them now, except the price has gone up about 50% over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
No, but I've always loved baseball. We had Charger tickets. We have these seats. And sometimes when people do favors for you, they don't want money, but they do want your Gucci seats. So it's a way of taking care of people who help you. And it's a way of, there's some ADs in town at smaller universities, high schools and such who really don't have much money, but they make a difference with kids. And if you give them the tickets and they can take their family, some of the thank you notes you get back from some of those, especially some of the children of the ADs, or teachers or coaches. It's really neat. So we'll keep them as long as I can afford them.
Okay. Ron, did you wear my jersey to any of the Charger games ever?
No.
Well, you were always in trouble, Bert.
Yeah, he can't afford to do that.
I think if I'd have shown up at Spanos box with one of them, I might have gotten in trouble because you were not exactly quiet and understated.
It was the Burt Grossman and Ryan Leaf.
Someday when we have this podcast turned off.
You got the better of that. I don't want to go there. You performed.
I was a little trouble sometimes.
Ron, we've kept you longer than we promised, so thank you so much. A thank you note will be coming your way for this, because obviously you're the heaviest hitter we've had in this podcast, and the fact that you give us 30 minutes of your time means a lot.
I like what you guys do, but the PPR is something that's been going a long time. I love the fact when Shaq used to, I love John Shacklett. I wish he was doing a bit better than he is. I think some health issues, but when he got involved with you guys, it just showed it changed his life and gave him a second opportunity. So you guys are special in what you do. Keep it going, and I enjoy watching.
Let me tell you a quick story about that. I was doing his retirement dinner. We were at the Scottish Rite Center, and in the middle of the dinner, and the room was having a good time. Everybody was throwing back a few pops. It just dawned on me, because at the time the show needed some gravitas, needed some somebody who was respected. And in the middle of the dinner, I said, "Oh, by the way, I want to announce to everybody, John Shacklett's joining the PPR next season." And he looked up from his mashed potatoes, because he hadn't seen the contract yet. And sure enough, he agreed to do it, and he became a legend on the show. And he became a second dad to me, actually. So.
Yeah, well, that's what Bob was to me, and Shaq is as good as you get.
Yeah.
Great guy.
All right, Ron, you can turn this off. And again, thank you. And I'm going to be texting you for a P.O. box so I can send you a thank you note, because this means a ton. And I promise I won't ask it until next year.
Bert, pleasure to be on with you. And
no,
I don't know
the honor's mine.
Honest on the group, but between the two of you, it was very professional. I'm going to have to talk to Ben and Woods and tell them that they need to take pointers from you guys.
I don't think so. Those guys are in a league of their own. All right, Ron.
Take care.
Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Turn off the machines.